But back to our problem. So this is me. I wrote a couple of books in the early 90s, and my mother said, "Yes, Kenneth, that's all very well, but what do you actually do? What do you really do for a living?" And I'm not sure I was able to give her a very good answer. But I told her I was the donor relationships guy. And I used to quite enjoy that. And people would say at conferences, well, you can't mention the word relationship without promoting Ken Burnett and his books. And I thought, good, I might sell some more books. I don't care if people read them, but I might sell a few more books. And in May, before the story of Olive Cook broke, I had just completed a 5-part series of articles called The Future of Fundraising. So in these happy days, this was when the choice was ours to make, when we were directing our own futures. We were masters of our own identities. And those happy days, I'm afraid, are gone forever. And they won't come back. What was the thing that I thought we might be missing? It was very simple. It was the donor and the donor's experience. So at this time, all the light bulb moments and all the stories were with
You are listening to a...
Whoa, sorry. Didn't think he would come in quite so quickly. So I want you just to listen to this short audio clip.
You are listening to a programme from BBC Radio 4.
The Baptist minister, the Reverend Roy Jenkins. Good morning.
Good morning. We were a small group, fewer than 10, and only one of us didn't have a bus pass tucked away somewhere. As usual, part of our meeting involved talking about people and situations of concern, before doing what often seems the only thing we can offer, praying for them. We'd thought about refugees and terrorism, and then the oldest member, 94 years of age and almost blind, spoke with some passion. She'd been trying to do something about the charity appeals which arrived every day. Her faith told her that having received freely, she should give freely. But there were so many good causes, she couldn't possibly support them all, and it worried her. This week, with her daughter, she weighed up the claims and made her choices. They thought she'd cracked it. The next morning, the post brought another, and she really didn't see how she could say no. Her story lit a fuse. Everyone there had shared the dilemma. They told of weekly appeals from organisations they already gave to regularly, of repeated requests after making a single donation, of feeling manipulated by tear-jerking images and by unwanted gifts of pens, labels, calendars, wrapping paper. If I responded to everything, said one, I'd need to be sending out my own appeal. These are generous and caring people, and they're fed up, not least at the apparent waste in it all. And I suspect there are lots like them. I realise that many needs would simply not be met without the work of charities. You do have to spend money to make money, and the market is frighteningly competitive. I also know that after well-publicised scandals earlier this year, some of the biggest charities have committed never to act in abusive ways and set out in detail their fundraising principles, which is fine as far as it goes. But I wonder whether the sheer volume isn't in danger of crushing the very human desire to respond to people in need. I don't know how it could be prevented, but I do hope someone's working on it for all our sakes. Of course, it's good to share as we can, because we're grateful for what we have. It makes sense to attempt with my friend of 94 to select a number of good causes, but then to have no scruple about sending every other appeal to the recycling bin. Jesus didn't heal every sick person in first century Palestine, and we shouldn't be feeling guilty because we can't do better than him. The Lord loves a cheerful giver, we're told. It would be a shame if a non-stop battering of our emotions turned any of us into grumpy givers, and worse still, if we simply turned away.
That was Thought for the Day with the Reverend Roy Jenkins.
Like half of the population, I listened to that over my breakfast one morning, and I found it quite heartbreaking. He said her story lit a fuse. That was absolutely the truth. He also said somewhere in there, I do hope someone's working on it for all our sakes. At that point, no one was. Our sector went to ground. Our sector went into self-denial. Sorry, went into denial. I'm not sure there was much self-denial going on, but anyway. Just to give you a little bit of the context, a lot of research was being done in terms of how the public were reacting to this. And it was very clear that charity trust and confidence in charities fell to an all-time low. The largest areas were trustworthiness and a belief that charities had forgone ethical and moral standards in the interests of getting ever more money. There was too much aggression. The government particularly was concerned about the elderly and vulnerable. There were lots of other issues were dragged into this, executive pay, which had nothing to do with the issues at hand, but charities are a fairly easy target. Charities were wasteful. Charities were too political. There were questions asked in Parliament. Chief executives from fundraising charities were called in to justify their behaviour. One of the worst instances of the whole experience for me was watching 5 chief executives testify before Parliament. And when they were asked about the actions of their supplier agencies, they said, we knew nothing. It was nothing to do with us. We'll fire them immediately. And many of those companies were fired. And this, I think, was a terrible, terrible indictment of our sector because they were responsible. They should have been in the driving seat. They should have been managing those relationships. And if they didn't know it was going on, they should be fired. And if they knew it was going on, they should be fired. It was all about the lowest common denominator. Charities certainly are appreciated. People have not felt comfortable about attacking charities, but suddenly this tidal wave gave them the authority, the permission to be critical, and boy, did they take advantage of it. They don't listen, they just want more and more money. Now, these are our analysis from the Commission's point of view. We felt that part of the problem was the sales-led approach. Targeting the most generous, which is often the most elderly and vulnerable, lax standards, marginalization of suppliers, chronic lack of supervision, underinvestment, absence of investment, inept leadership, poor recruitment. Now, I don't like telling my colleagues that this is the case. And a lot of people don't like hearing it, but I'm afraid all the evidence supports that in too many instances this is the case. Heads in the sand, abdication of responsibility, particularly from boards and chief executives who say fundraising is over there, it's not our business. And what the fundraisers were saying quite early on was everyone is walking on eggshells, cancelling campaigns left and right and centre, and that was true. Another senior fundraiser said, fundraising in this country has been changed forever. And a columnist in Third Sector, a very eminent fundraiser, said, I confidently expect the fuss to die down and everything to go back to normal. One of those statements, I think, is incontrovertibly true, and it's that one. Fundraising in the UK has changed forever. Yet, net fundraising in many instances had risen. And you may wonder why that was. Many people cancelled their automatic payments, their autogiro, their direct debits. There were plenty of signs that income was going down. Staff were let go. Many events were cancelled. Regulation was coming in now, forced upon us by this tidal wave. Investment in fundraising plummeted, and that's why the net for many organizations didn't look nearly so bad. They may have seen income falling, but their investment in fundraising was falling as well. Now that is like eating your seed corn, because not far down the line, these organizations are going to suffer considerably. Acquisition, new donor acquisition in steep decline. Very few people actually beginning to invest in the donor experience. And this quote was given to me by the head of fundraising in a meeting that I chaired of senior fundraising directors. One of the top 10 charities stood up and said, "My job is managing decline now." And a third of the group agreed with him. It's not business as usual. There comes a time when you have to recognize this. So I'm just going to quote some statistics. You'll see this is very recent. This is from the 17th of August. The British Red Cross cut its fundraising by 10.3 million. That might be a jaw-dropping sum for many of you in 2016, and saw a 17.4 million drop in fundraising income. Spending and fundraising dropped by 11%, income fell by 11%. Over 2 years, the spending dropped by 40%. That's why I think we let our beneficiaries down. We do not want to be managing decline. Cancer Research UK was able to grow their income, but their donation income fell quite substantially. And lots of reports in the press about how donors do not want to, they want regulation, they want charities to be controlled. This is a self-inflicted wound. The current crisis in UK fundraising is neither morally, socially, or economically excusable. This was failure on a catastrophic scale. And I think it came about by blinkered thinking and neglect. One of the advantages of having 41 years of experience is that no one can fire me now. So I can say what I believe. I think this was a tragedy.